today, my 6-year-old goes to an extracurricular class called multisport, and the idea is he learns various sports and gets sort of a sampler of all the different sports, basketball, baseball, whatever. Yeah, it's a great idea.
Right.
But a lot of the time they spend, according to what he tells me, when I say, hey, what'd you do in multisport? A lot of it is just sort of organized playground games. And today, because we're at the end of the semester, there was a special parent-child day of multisport. So I went with him to multisport. And the teacher got there a little bit late, but whatever. And we all sat around in a circle. The circle being the center circle of, I guess, what is an indoor soccer court. And we all and the teacher said, okay, today we're going to do this and this and this, and okay, everybody stand up. We're going to do stretches, and we all did some stretches, whatever stretches they normally do, and then we played playground games. But these are playground games that aren't the playground games that I played, most of them, because they're from a different country. And
right. So you had to learn them.
So when they said, all right, now we're going to play Avalanche. And I was like, what the? So,
right.
So I had...
Which is you basically falling down on your child.
Right. So
nearly smothering him, but he escapes.
But
I'm sure
the teacher explained a little bit, but then I could ask my son, I said, hey, how do we play this? And so Avalanche in particular was 3 people are chosen to stand across what is basically the center line on, we'll say a basketball court to make it easier to visualize. And all the other people, because there were like 10 other kids and 10 other grown-ups, have to try and run from one side of the court to the other without getting tagged by the people that are, but the people are locked onto the center line. You can't leave the center line. It's pretty easy to get by the first time, but then whoever got tagged is also added to the center line team. And so then it's even harder to get by, and it gets harder and harder and harder and harder until basically, you're locking arms, forming an impassable place. But that was kind of cool. And then we got to play Duck, Duck, Goose, which is always fun. But you had to, the parent and the child had to be holding hands the whole time. So we're sitting around in a circle, and someone says goose, and they hit you on the head, and you have to get up with your child and run around chasing the other parent and child that is trying to go run around and sit back in your spot.
Oh God!
And I'm pretty sure my son actually left the floor part of the time when I was carrying him around, just with the centrifugal force. But it was just an all around good, wholesome time, and it occurred to me, why don't adult gyms have playground games where you're playing tag.
Yeah, listen, man,
we can make a lot of money here. Is that what you're going to say?
Of adult games, and I'll have to remember the name of it. But when I was a counselor in a group home, we used this book of games when we turned over from the 48-hour staff who were in the runaway shelter working to the new 48-hour staff, and the way that we turned over the staffing was we played an adult game. Mm-hmm. And in that adult game, during that game, as part of our training, we learned that we had a male and a female partner in this runaway shelter. And I would say, let's say Eric was my guy coming in to replace me, I would say to the kids individually and then in larger settings, because I had a good relationship with him, which was my goal during my 48 hours, to say what a great guy Eric is and how much I like him and how much we're alike, and I do that publicly, and then I make sure that with the kid that there's interaction with the three of us, and then eventually over the hour and a half turnover, Eric is now having a conversation with the child without me,
and
you
slowly back away,
But this game book was fabulous, and it included a game that was about a dragon, and it was the dragon might have been the dragon from Tolkien books, but Smaug.
Yeah,
Smaug the dragon is the name of it, so that's how you'll find it. But you get a big circle of people, and in the middle is you as the dragon, and there's a handkerchief or a bright-colored scarf, and that's the diamonds, and the goal of the group is to snatch them. But if you tag them, they freeze in place,
Right.
which complicates the playing field,
Right.
positive and negative in a different
Sure.
couple of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And when the circle of people learns, as wolves do, to come in together so that it's not me and then you and whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it gets very complicated, but it's very physical.
Right.
So you play it on the lawn, and it's an example of this. You know what it's called? New Games. That's
Nice.
the name of it, New Games. So we can promote that.
Yeah, that's very cool. One of the games we did was a modified tag where you some person starts off as it, and whoever he tags has to hold his hand, and then the both of you are trying to tag other people, and eventually you get this longer and longer chain.
Wow!
And
Cool.
it became very apparent. I was like the third person tagged. That when you've got 3 or 4 people in your chain, it's really important to declare a singular target that you're going to go after, because otherwise you're like trying to stretch and break and touch all these other. You see people and you're focusing on on another
Right.
person that's running by. So we said, all right, we're gonna go get that person. And this was
Right.
the way they did it was the grown-ups against the grown-ups and the kids against the kids. So
Interesting.
but eventually we had this chain of like 6 people that we could sort of wrap around like a fishing net around to our prey and capture them.
That's funny.
But
That's funny.
it's such a it's
Yeah.
it's not a thing that we normally do or think about of
Right.
that sort of game theory of
Right.
physicality
Right.
as
Right.
adults.
Work
And
the
it
body,
was
grow the mind, right? I mean,
it was so cool.
So now you have shared experiences,
Yeah.
which is the basis of longer lasting relationships rather than introductions and
Right.
dinner parties. But and so the physical nature of it is in itself a binding influence because the competitive nature
Right.
and the collaboration that's required as a team sport, all of these. So this New Games, let's publicize this, but the name of the game I described is called Smog's Jewels.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're together with our gang, let's play it on the beach.